So good morning, and thank you for joining us today for the February 2022 SEAC webinar. I'm Susan Foer, and along with William Greenhalgh and Candace Christofferson, we'll be your host this morning. This event is being recorded. For closed captioning, please click on the link in the chat feature. Today, you'll be hearing about some of the latest updates on services, programs, and policies related to your work with CalPERS. The presentation will take about 2.5 hours, which includes a 10-minute break. There'll be time for questions following each presentation, and then again at the general roundtable at the end of the webinar. Next slide, please. Okay, a few housekeeping items. As I mentioned, this is being recorded and it will be available on the CalPERS website next week. All attendees' microphones are muted. Today's meeting materials are available on the CalPERS SEAC webpage, but if you have any problems locating the materials, feel free to email the SEAC mailbox and we'll be sure to get those to you. That email is calpers_@calpers.ca.gov. Next slide, please. Okay, in addition to submitting your questions in the Q&A box, you can use the raise hand feature. You can do this by clicking the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. Our host will then unmute your mic so that you can ask your question. And then to lower your hand, simply select lower hand. And please don't forget to mute your mic after you've asked your question. Okay, next slide, please. So we've gathered several CalPERS leaders and team members for this event. Andrea Peters will give us a legislative update. Brad Hansen is here and he will update us on disallowed compensation regulations. Bianca Fong and Heather Porter are here with updates on mandatory furloughs and Senate Bill 411. Then we'll take a 10-minute break. Next slide, please. When we return from break, Veronica Coria will update us on membership eligibility. Then we'll get an update on membership election requirements from Alex Vasquez. Ryan Beeker will get us up to date on some CalPERS system enhancements. Paul Sheeta from our actuary office is joining us with contribution rates outlook. And Jamie Pope from our customer education and outreach division will give us a quick preview of our plans for reopening the CalPERS regional offices. And then finally, our chief of the employer account management division, Renee Ostrander, along with Brad and Heather Porter and they're going to lead us on a question and answer session at the end. So with all of that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Peters. Next slide, please.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Peters, and I will be providing you a rather short legislative update today. Generally, prior to today's meeting, attendees would have been provided a PDF document titled CalPERS Bill List. This document would contain summaries of the bills that CalPERS is actively monitoring, including any bills that I would usually discuss today. However, we are at the beginning of the second year of a 2-year legislative cycle, and bills are currently in the process of being introduced by legislative members, and CalPERS team members are reviewing and analyzing potential impacts to CalPERS. The bill introduction deadline is February 18th. So in short, we do not have a bill list that we can provide to you today. We hope to have a comprehensive list ready in time for our May SEAC meeting. However, in the chat box, there will be a link that will take attendees to a similar bill list that is available online that updates real time. Here, you will be able to access some of the bills that we are currently reviewing before the May SEAC meeting. When you click on the link, it will take you to the CalPERS legislation website. Under the heading Current Legislation, there are 2 options, one titled State and the other titled Federal. Attendees will want to select the state option. The state link will direct attendees to a third-party website called Capital Track. This website provides a list of bills that CalPERS is actively monitoring in a slightly different format than the PDF that you would normally have received today. When the attendee clicks on a bill number, for example, AB 97, the attendee will be provided more information about the bill, such as a high-level summary of the bill, where the bill is in the legislative process, and what actions, if any, have been taken on the bill. This information is updated real time and is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pending website maintenance or IT issues. I would recommend saving this link for future reference, and we will be sure to send out the link in an email following today's meeting. This concludes my short presentation. I would like to thank you for your time, and I will go ahead and turn this presentation over to Brad Hanson in the Employer Account Management Division.
Greetings, how's everyone doing today? So this is a topic I know we've covered a few other times at the SEAC, and for those of you who have attended our webinars, I know we've talked at length about this bill as well, but I thought it'd be a good reminder and kind of refresher about the new government code 20164.5 that a circulator was actually sent out right before the beginning of the new year, probably around last week of December. This bill has to do with something called disallowed compensation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, so as mentioned before, Government Code 20164.5 defines something called disallowed compensation for benefit adjustments. So you might be thinking, well, what's disallowed compensation? Isn't that just compensation that was denied and not used in a member's retirement allowance? In a way, yes, but it actually has a different definition than that. So it was established retroactive actually back to January 1st of 2017. So that means that any member that has an open case that hasn't exhausted all of their legal remedies yet, this bill could apply to them. And should disallowed comp be applied to the member or employer, essentially the employer makes the member whole by covering the total of the overpayment and a portion of annuity to the reduction to the member's allowance. Additionally, the law also states that you can submit your MOU or labor agreement to CalPERS, and then we have 90 days to review it and get back to you and give you the green light to let you know if the compensation that you are reporting is indeed reportable, or if it's not, we'll let you know that as well. And it's always not open and shut. Maybe you have something that isn't compliant, but if you were to update your language or add certain criteria, we can make it compliant. So that's just kind of a high level of what the bill is. Let me now get down into the weeds and explain it to you in terms of that as more of a real life example and how it will truly impact you. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so disallowed compensation items. A disallowed compensation item is a non-compliant special comp item included in a labor agreement or MOU. So for example, one of the more common ones we see is something called top step longevity pay. So if you have a longevity pay, right, there's certain criteria you have to meet. And one of those things is, the person has to work a minimum of 5 years, and then you have to have specific percentage or dollar amount that gets paid to that member, and you have to have the conditions of payment and whatnot in there. But one thing you can't do with a longevity pay is you can't pay it for people just at top step. You can't say, well, once someone's at the top step, step 5, and they have 10 years of service, then they can receive it. It has to be available to the entire group or class, regardless of the step they're at. So just for the example's sake, that would be something that if you have that in your MOU and you're reporting it to CalPERS, potentially it could be a disallowed compensation item. So then the next part is the member was unknowingly placed on roll after retirement date with a non-compliant special comp item. So let's say in this example, it's me, and I work for you, and you're paying me this top step longevity pay. It gets reported to CalPERS. we don't catch the fact that it shouldn't have been reported, and I go on roll with that. So now that I'm on roll with this top step longevity, I'm receiving additional money that I shouldn't be receiving. So 5 years later, let's say there's an audit and my audit team catches that, and then they have to retroactively downward adjust me. So they take away my longevity pay and it goes back to my retirement date. So if it met those criteria, more than likely, that means that the penalty would then be would be affected to the employers and to the member. And I have a good example of how that works in a few slides. So one thing that I didn't do on these slides, because we were kind of defining these things, is go over there's actually 4 criteria that a member has to meet in order to have their compensation be considered disallowed comp. So I'm going to go over those right now. And these are all actually included in a circular letter that we sent out at the end of the year. So criteria 1, the compensations reported and contributions were made on the compensation while the member was actively employed. So that's kind of what we've already covered, right? That top step longevity, even though it wasn't something that should have been reported, contributions will be reported to me or for me into CalPERS. 2, the compensation was agreed to in an MOU or collective bargaining agreement between the employer and the recognized employee organization as compensation for pension purposes, and the employer and the recognized employee organization did not knowingly agree to compensation that was disallowed. So the union, met with the agency and came up with this idea to do this top step longevity, and you didn't know that it wasn't reportable. So you put that in the MOU and you reported it. CalPERS never reviewed it. We weren't able to advise you that it wasn't reportable. So you unknowingly were reporting something that you didn't know was compliant or non-compliant. Criteria 3, the determination by the system that compensation was disallowed was made after the retirement date. So that's really key. It was made after the retirement date. So if I have a retirement date of December 31st of 2021, and then the determination that we make is after that retirement date, so I make the determination on January 3rd, 2022, since that determination was made after the retirement date, regardless if the member was placed on roll, this SB 278 penalty would actually go into effect. And then the last criteria, the member was not aware that the compensation was disallowed at the time it was reported. So, the member had no idea that top step longevity pay that I keep referencing, they had no idea it wasn't compliant. So if all 4 of those criteria are met, then it would be considered disallowed compensation. And that's when the penalties would come into effect. I'm going to go into those a little bit in the next few slides. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So I covered what would be considered disallowed. So here's some items that would not be considered disallowed compensation. Payroll corrections related to errors. Let's say that you reported a monthly pay rate as an hourly, and it skyrocketed the member's pay rate. Well, that's a keen error. That wouldn't be considered something that's disallowed. It's not something in your MOU, right? You didn't have in your MOU report hourly as monthly. Lump sum reporting, even though this is something that does create havoc and creates a lot of issues with retirement, lump sum reporting is not considered disallowed comp. Again, it's not in your MOU that it says to be reported as a lump sum. And in reality, it was a keying error. It should be spread out equally, right? We've talked about this at the SEAC numerous times, the Ed Forum, some of our webinars, but lump sums, right? It should be spread out. It shouldn't be reported once per year. It creates issues where lump sums can be doubled up and spike a member's pension. However, not considered disallowed comp, more considered a payroll keying error. Compensation item was reportable, but cannot be used in the final compensation calculation. So this one's tricky, right? In our laws, we have a law that says that special comp can't be reported solely in the final comp period. But in some cases, right, it just happens to be that that's what happens. For instance, let's say that I'm 65 years old and I'm finally eligible for a longevity pay, one that's compliant. Well, I was going to retire at 65 anyways, and I work 5 months under that, getting that longevity pay. I go to retire. Well, I only had 5 months of longevity pay in my final comp period. So in cases like that, even though it was reportable and compliant, we would deny it because it was solely in the final comp period. Things like that would not be considered disallowed compensation, with the caveat, unless it's in the MOU stated that way, that it's only reported solely in the final comp period, then of course disallowed compensation would come into play. And then anything that has to do with the pay rate denial. Let's say that you reported a pay rate that was above what was on the pay schedule for that particular member. Well, yeah, we would still deny that and we wouldn't allow it in their time allowance. Again, though, that would not be considered disallowed compensation because that's not something that's in the MOU or labor agreement. It falls outside of those parameters I mentioned earlier. So in short, if you have something in your MOU or labor agreement that's considered non-compliant and you're reporting it to CalPERS and we catch it after the member retires, more than likely it's going to be considered disallowed compensation. If it's a payroll reporting error, like the screen that you see before you, those type of things would not be considered disallowed comp. Just going to throw out there, though, that we're going to look at everything really closely. And there could be sometimes where maybe one of these criteria, because it's in your MOU or labor agreement, it could actually fall under the umbrella of disallowed compensation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so let me give you an example of how this penalty will work. So let's say that this member has a disallowed compensation. Let's just say it's at top step longevity and it's $500 per month. So my allowance, I'm the member, is $5,500 a month. But that allowance, $500 of that includes that top step longevity pay. So I've been retired now for 3 years and I've been receiving that additional $500 every month for the last 3 years. Next slide, please. Okay. So here's how we would calculate that penalty. So there was an audit, they found that $500. My audit team sends you this letter basically saying, hey, we're denying Brad's longevity retro back to his retirement date. And SB 278 applies. So the way we're going to calculate the amount due is, one, we're going to take that $500 that was overpaid for those last 3 years and multiply it by the amount of months that I was overpaid, 36 months in this example. So that comes out to $1,800 or $18,000, excuse me, $18,000. And that now would be shifted all to the employer. In our current world, we bill the member for these type of overpayments, anything up to 3 years. So let's just say the overpayment was 5 years. In our current world, the employer would pay 2 years of the overpayment and then the member would pay the other 3 years. So like in this example, if it wasn't disallowed comp, the member would be paying the $18,000. If it's disallowed comp, then the employer will end up paying that. And just for my example's sake, I just made it easy by using that $500. But that would also include any cost of living adjustments I may have received during my retirement. So with CalPERS, the first year you don't get a COLA, but then every year after that, you get a cost of living adjustment based on what's in the employer's contract. I think for schools, I might be wrong here, I think it's up to 2%. So those would also be added into that overpayment amount. So that's part one of the penalty. The employer would pay the entire overpayment should there be a disallowed compensation item in a member's retirement allowance. Part two of the penalty is, next slide, is covering that downward adjustment. So I was getting paid $5,500, but now that $500 has been taken away from me. So part of the bill states that the employer has to cover a portion of that ongoing amount with an actuarial amount paid out in a lump sum. So I don't have the exact factors used by our actuaries, and it will be different based on every member because there's different retirement formulas. The member's age plays into it. The option that they chose plays into it. So every member could have a unique factor applied to how this penalty is calculated. So I don't have what that percentage will be, but I have kind of a little graphic here that shows how it works basically how the calculation would work. So like for example, in this, so the law says that the penalty is up to 20% of what that disallowed amount is multiplied by that actuarial factor. So my downward adjustment was $500. Multiply that by 20%, and so it comes out to $100. We then would take that $100, we'd multiply it by that actuarial factor. Again, it's based on life expectancy, the formula the member's under, how old they are at the time it happens, tons of different, all the factors that we use to calculate rates and our formulas all come into play for that actuarial factor. So that's, I represent that on the PowerPoint as AF. AF means actuarial factor. So $100 multiplied by the actuarial factor gives you 100 AF. We're doing a little bit of algebra this morning. So then the employer would get a bill that states that, okay, you have to pay Brad, the member, 100 AF, whatever that may come out to be. Let's just say that my life expectancy is 25 years. So imagine $100 multiplied by what I would have received over 25 years. Whatever that may come out to be, you would have to pay out that in a lump sum to the member to essentially make them whole for that downward adjustment that they weren't expecting. The thought is, you know, members, when they go to retire, they're basing their life decisions on what they think they're going to get. So, you know, I was basing my decisions on I was getting $5,500 per month. Now I'm only at $5,000. So this helps with that aspect of it. And that was basically the intention of the bill. And additionally, of that 100 AF on the algebra formula I put up here, 10% of that will get paid to CalPERS as an administrative fee as well. Next slide, please. So that is a SB 278, Government Code 20164.5, kind of the high level overview of it. Again, it doesn't apply to every case where we do a denial, but if we catch something that shouldn't have been reported after the member's retired and it meets those four criteria I mentioned earlier, those penalties will be assessed to any employer that happened to report items that should never have been reported and members were put on roll with when they shouldn't have been. If you'd like to learn more about this, on our website, we have the Public Employees Retirement Law, we have the Public Agency School Reference Guide, and then we have our circular letters. Our circular letter that we sent out at the end of December of 2021 covers a lot of what I went over today. If you want to find out more, I definitely recommend going and looking that up and finding it. If you need a link to it, you can always send me an email and I can send you a link. You can also email our MOU _review mailbox if you'd like us to look at your MOU. If you want to avoid any of these type of penalties to occur in the future, I highly recommend you send your MOU or labor agreement in. My team we have a team of about 5-6 experts that know how to review these type of things and find the issues and help you strengthen your language, or just let you know up front that something just absolutely isn't reportable. And you, of course, can always contact the CalPERS Contact Center for any questions that you have. Okay, so at the end, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Also, too, we still are offering webinars to all of our employers. If you'd like me to come and speak to your county office or your districts about SB 278 or any kind of compensation issues, please let me know and I'll go ahead and schedule one of those for you. All right, everybody, have a great day and I will see you at the end. Oh, and I forget who I'm passing it off to now. Susan, you might need to help me out on that one. I don't remember. Oh, I'm going to pass over to Mina Kafon.
Actually, hold on, Brad, just a minute, please. Vina has a question for you. And Vina, can you unmute?
Hi. Hi, Brad.
Hello.
Thank you for the information. I have 2 questions. Once PERS inform us about this bill, disallowed compensation invoice or something, is there districts they can appeal? Like they can still.
So here's how the appeals will work. So right now, whenever we deny compensation, we always offer appeal rights to both the member and the employer. We're going to add in verbiage to our determination letters to let you know if 278 applies. In that same letter, we offer those appeal rights. So the member or employer could appeal the SB 278 decision there if they wish.
So the invoice will be issued after the determination of the appeal?
Correct. So at CalPERS, we automatically apply our downward adjustments and overpayments regardless of the appeal status. So once we make the determination, we're going to pass this over to our Retirement Benefit Services Division, and they'll set the invoice up and send you a letter letting you know what the penalties are. We don't put a halt on any of those type of things until the ALJ decision comes out. If the ALJ decides that we were incorrect and the board adopts it, then we could perhaps unwind it. But we go full on from the minute we make the determination to start collecting overpayments and the downward adjustments.
Okay, my second question is, once you send the invoice to us, is it going to the district as well as the county office?
You know, we're still working out the details on the invoices. We'll have to get back to you on that one. I think the current direction it will go to the county office since they are contract holder.
It should go to the both the employer and the county office.
All right, but I can take that back and we can look into that.
Yeah, because all the invoices should go to both places, the employer as well as the county office.
Okay, we'll definitely look into if we can do that or not.
The way your system is, you know, the area where we see all these invoices, it's extremely messy for the county office. Tons and tons of information there to be able to follow up. So we don't want to ever miss anything. So we want to make sure it goes to the district as well as the county office.
All right, well, I'll take that back.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Okay. Any other questions? I mean,
no more raised hands.
Okay. Now I'll pass it off.
Thank you, Brad. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mianca Fong, and I'm here today from the Furlough Legislation Implementation Team. Next slide, please. I'm here to give you a brief overview of what is happening with furlough legislation. As many of you know, Assembly Bill 1651 was chaptered in 2008 due to the tragic economic downturn, which added Government Code Section 20969.2 to the Public Employees Retirement Law. This bill ensures that certain persons subject to mandatory furloughs will not have their CalPERS retirement benefits impacted due to the furlough. Those covered under this legislation include persons employed by a county office of education, school district that is a contracting agency, or a community college district. Each year, CalPERS sends each county office of education a questionnaire asking if their districts implemented a furlough for the previous fiscal year. For those districts that did implement a furlough, we send out spreadsheets for the district's completion to determine the members' lost earnings due to the furlough. This process adjusts the member's service credit, making it whole for those members who were mandatorily furloughed. We want to advise you that this process is still in place, and you can expect the furlough questionnaire within the next month as we gather information for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Please note, more information pertaining to the furlough legislation can be found in our Circular Letter 200-040-20. In the meantime, we have exciting news to share. CalPERS is currently working on a system enhancement automating this process. Finally, we have tried to complete this system enhancement to be up and running for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Unfortunately, it will not be ready for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. There were a lot of discoveries through testing, and we want to make sure all the useful features were included. We want our business partners have the best and easiest time in navigating through this new system enhancement. But just like how the movies are advertised, next attraction coming soon, this new enhancement will be coming soon to the CalPERS system. So just a little reminder again, the 2020-2021 fiscal year will be the old-fashioned way, back and forth emails from our school and local safety furlough mailbox. And if you receive an email from this mailbox, I guarantee you it's not spam. Please do not delete, no need to report. Next slide, please. With that being said, currently business partners can see a furlough reduction link under menu in the reporting tab. This link is currently disabled, but will be available next year. This new enhancement is going to be a streamlined approach. So instead of the back and forth emails, this new enhancement will generate and distribute the furlough questionnaire to all of you. You will be able to enter data and report lost earnings due to furlough through the CalPERS system. This enhancement will also automatically update and adjust member service credit. You can expect to hear more news about this exciting new feature upon its completion. For now, please do not try to utilize this functionality as it is not yet ready. I hope you have found this information helpful. Next slide, please. I would now like to open up for any questions regarding furlough legislation with the assistance of Dan Wen. Thank you. If there's any questions on the chat or the Q&A, I would look into it.
We have no raised hands at this point, but I think there are some in the Q&A. Is Dan going to read those? Let's see.
Yeah, I can read them.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here. We have one from Teresa Cooper. Will PERS reach out to their business partners to assist in testing this system enhancement? Will this be to CEOs only or all reporting agencies and CEO? From my understanding that we will, once we implement the system enhancements, we'll do a training with all the COEs. So they make sure we'll make sure that they know how to use the system enhancement and how to report the lost earnings. Everything will be driven by the COE. You'll be working with your agency to gather the lost earnings. They'll be inputting the information in. The COE will be double checking the work and then sending it to us, and then we'll be reviewing it as well before we post the payroll or the lost earnings. And then let's see here, Vanessa Bolin has questions regarding, are these pages not included in the presentation? We didn't include the pages just yet because we are still working on the system enhancements. Once we get everything finalized, we will do a more in-depth presentation at the School Employer Advisory Committee when it's complete. Okay, so then we have another question here from Debbie Williamson. How can we find out if the county office has been reporting the furlough days? It's an annual process. We'll be reaching out to the COEs, and the COEs will be reaching out to the districts for the information. And then we will be getting the information and then updating the lost earnings. The COE should report back that, everything was submitted to CalPERS. All right, let's see here. We have another question from Tammy Britt. Mandatory furloughs. I emailed regarding the password on an old spreadsheet. No one here can remember. Can someone please call me later today? Yes, Tammy, I will call you today and give you the password. No problem. I will write that down right now. Maybe you can answer the next one, Susan, from Debbie.
Yes. First, I wanted to let you know we do have 2 raised hands too. I'm going to go to those real quick.
Sure.
Anna, go ahead and unmute.
Hi, yes, good morning. So you said the features will be at the county office level. We, as a county office, will be the one getting that question. Does your district implement any furloughs?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're going to be responding on behalf of our districts. I'm assuming that if we do have one district that do furloughs, the answer is yes, and then we need to specify which of one of our districts.
That's correct. Yeah,
okay.
There'll be like a yes, no. You can go down on all, we'll label all your districts and you'll be able to answer which districts are furloughing and which ones aren't.
Okay, okay, thank you.
I see another question by Diane Moore. I haven't received an email about the furloughs. When should that be expected? If you're talking about the 2020-2021 fiscal year, we would be emailing it within a month. I hope that answers your question. Are there any more questions?
Bianca, we can go ahead and go over, on to Heather, and then we can answer any more questions at the end.
All right, if there's no more questions, please feel free to reach out to our school and local safety furlough mailbox for any follow-up questions, which is found in our circular letter 200-040-20. Thank you. I will now hand it over to Heather Porter.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Porter, Section Manager over the Membership and Post-Retirement Determination and Social Security Administrator section. I'm here to discuss changes to Government Code 21202, Reinstatement after Unlawful Employment within the Housekeeping Bill SB 411. This was a very slight change in wording to the first sentence, adding the word may to the Government Code. It now reads, a person employed in violation of Section 21220 may be reinstated to membership in the category in which and on the date of which the unlawful employment occurred. So as you can see, instead of will be reinstated, it now says may be reinstated. This change is meant to allow the Working After Retirement team at CalPERS to review on a case-by-case basis violations that may be remedied without mandatory reinstatement. It is important to note that there will still be penalties involved and financial impacts to the member who is in violation. This is just a way of remedying some violations in a more streamlined capacity. It is still very important that both the employer and the member adhere to all Working After Retirement laws and restrictions to avoid these costly violations. Our members have some new ways of checking their hours on the MSS account, but please still be diligent as the employer to stay in communication with your retired annuitants to ensure they are in compliance with the Working After Retirement laws to avoid violations. We are currently working on a circular letter that will be coming soon with an overview of all the Working After Retirement laws and restrictions. This is kind of like a go-to guide to understand and follow all of the requirements. It will also include links to various circular letters posted due to the executive orders that were released over the last couple of years that impacted retired annuitants. So please look forward to that coming in the next month or so. And at this time, are there any questions that I can assist with?
Heather, it looks like we have a question from Ramona. Ramona, go ahead and unmute yourself.
So my question actually wasn't for Heather. It was at the tail end of the previous discussion. So I was not clear because I thought I had heard that districts were going to enter information and then county offices were going to review. So I just wanted clarification on who was actually going to be inputting data into the system. Was it going to be the district or is it going to be the county office?
Hi, Ramona.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hi. Yes, so initially the notification will be sent to the COEs, and once they we review, once they give back that and submitted that they have furloughed and one of their districts did furlough, there will be another notification sending out to, this is for the system enhancement, but also this is also the same as the spreadsheets that we do send out. The district will be the one inputting the data, the payroll data for the employees that were impacted by the furlough. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have another question from Vina. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Vina.
Okay. Heather, when you issue this new directive, the new circular, is there any way we can have kind of clearly the executive orders separately so that districts can know? For example, some of the items will expire, the waivers by March. In case you have anything that they can clearly see all those are not waived anymore going forward. You know, something to that order about the executive orders. Because what happens is the letters are so lengthy, sometimes districts get lost. What applies now, what's not going forward, things like that. So I just wanted to request if there can be a good way to separate the waivers, the executive orders separately, which were in place and not going to be, are not going to be, I mean, they are not going to be active anymore going forward. I'm just saying that if there is a way to kind of separate it so districts can clearly see which waivers don't apply anymore and what are the limitations and restrictions going forward.
Okay, yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. We would definitely be linking to the previous circular letters, but it sounds to me like what you're requesting is kind of an outline of like, currently this is where we're at. This applies, this doesn't apply.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because sometimes they don't go and open the links.
Right. Okay. We're in the midst of drafting this, so this is a great time for this feedback, and I really appreciate it. And I'll work with Dan and the team to make sure that we try to cover that in that circular letter, because I can see exactly the importance of that.
Oh, thank you. And I have one other question for Furlough, if I can ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I ask the Furlough question, please?
Yes.
This is just based on what Ramona was asking. You know, when districts have to enter the information and all those access, just like painful process we went through for certification, we don't want to go through that same process with Furlough. So I just wanted to make sure that since PERS has the experience, how when district have to enter the information, if they can kind of take care of it up front before they go live with this furlough information.
Dan or Mianka, can you address that question?
Had our districts, they couldn't upload the files for certification for the SCP process. So I just want to make sure with this process, it goes smoothly.
Yeah, that's a part of the reason why we delayed. We wanted to make sure that everything is working correctly before we implement it in. So yeah, we will take that into consideration and make sure that everything is working right before we go live with the furlough update in the system.
Yeah, and don't put too much burden on the county office. I'm just kidding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there aren't any more questions regarding SB 411, I'll turn it back over to Susan.
Thank you, Heather. So this is a good time to take a break. We'll take a 10-minute break, and that will, so that would be 20. Let's just go ahead and make it 10:30. If everyone can return to the webinar at 10:30, that would be great. See you then. All right, we are back. We're going to get started now. Veronica, you have the floor.
Hello, good morning. My name is Veronica Coria, and I'll be discussing the membership eligibility slides. Next slide, please. We'll be going over monitored membership. Regular membership qualifications apply to all positions unless excluded. Here we have a list of positions to monitor that don't qualify for immediate membership. These positions will need to be monitored. There's the full-time temporary, less than 6 months, part-time, less than 20 hours a week, irregular time basis, temporary, indeterminate, limited term, irregular positions, on-call, seasonal, substitutes, intermittent, and extra help. Essentially, any position that have fluctuating hours will need to be monitored for membership eligibility. Please note that per diem employees are employees that are paid a daily rate. This specific position, labeled per diem, are subject to be monitored and qualify for membership after completing 125 days. They should be enrolled into membership on the 126th day. Next slide, please. All regular and overtime hours worked in these type of positions are used to qualify to reach 1,000 hours under the same employer. The same employer means it includes all school districts under the same county office of education. For example, if a member is working in 2 positions concurrently at 2 separate school districts and are under the same county office of education, then the hours worked at both will be used to qualify a member using the 1,000-hour rule. Please note, when hiring new employees, it's the employer's responsibility to verify all positions working under the same county office of education to confirm the member did not qualify previously. In my CalPERS, the employer can use the search tool to verify if an employee is a previous member of CalPERS, which means they have funds on deposit. For example, a member has previous membership and has left their funds on deposit with CalPERS. Therefore, they should be enrolled immediately based on the once a member rule, regardless of the time base and tenure of the new position, unless there's a specific exclusion for that position. The once a member rule means the member has already established membership with CalPERS because they qualified through another CalPERS covered agency. Next slide, please. When calculating the 1,000 hours, you should only be using regular and overtime hours worked in the fiscal year. The fiscal year starts July 1st through June 30th of the following year. When the member reaches 1,000 hours to qualify, the membership date can be the next day after qualifying or the first day of the next pay period. I would like to remind all employers, it is important to remember to enroll employees immediately upon qualifying for membership. Please enroll correctly and timely to avoid any arrears and penalties. Next slide. Please, next slide. And here we have a list of resources for you to assist with any membership related issues. There's a call center contact number, the membership reporting email box, and the school reference guide titled Public Agencies and School Reference. And now we'll move on to any membership questions. Are there any questions in the Q&A?
Yes, just one second. We've got Ramona. Go ahead and unmute, Ramona.
Good morning. I was going to try to type out my question, but I wasn't quick enough. So when qualifying, I just wanted to confirm, their vacation and or sick time that they utilize would not be considered?
Hi, this is Ron Ashcraft. Hello, everybody. I'm on the team with Veronica membership review team. If the member is compensated for the hours, then they're counted towards the 1,000 hours.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it had said the worked and overtime, so I wanted to just make sure that if they have sick time or vacation time that they're paid for, those hours are included to count towards that 1,000-hour rule.
Yes, and that can be found in the Public Agency and Schools Reference Guide. If you'd like, I can pull up a link.
No.
Well, no, we have.
I know that it's there. I just wanted to, because it seemed to conflict with what was said. So I wanted to confirm. I'm okay. I'm good with that now that you've confirmed that, yes, it is still included.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I just wanted to say also, I answered one in writing that Monica Keller had left. She said she had to leave early. I was just getting ready to answer the next one, and I'll put that in writing as well. Was there any other one, Susan?
It looks like Ramona just raised her hand again. Let's check. Ramona, do you have another question?
I do. Monica's was, if the intention was to be less than 6 months, and then it went into longer.
Okay, I didn't read it as less than. I thought she put 6 months. So correct. If it's full-time for less than 6 months, it would not be immediate membership on the date of hire. If it's full, and that person would be monitored. If the person does work full-time for 6 months or longer, then it would be the membership on the first of the following month. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I see one here also in the Q&A. If a member is working full-time elsewhere and part-time at our location, the employee would be considered non-contributory. How do these employees should be reported? So if the person's in an overtime position, I mean, I'm not in payroll reporting, but I know it should be reported. The position that CalPERS in our membership and post-retirement team does the contributory, non-contributory determinations. So you would report that, and then CalPERS would determine, you know, which one was full-time and which one would be considered non-contributory. I'm not in payroll, so I'm sorry, I can't give the exact reporting procedures on that. If somebody's here that could assist with that.
What was the question again? About contributory, non-contributory?
Right, the question, the bottom line was, if it's a non-contributory position, how does the employer report these employees, or should be reported?
You would still report exactly like you do now. You just wouldn't report contributions. We still need the earnings and the pay rate. We need everything we still do, but once a member's been flipped to non-contributory, we just won't bill for the contributions, and you shouldn't report them.
And Brad just wanted to add in, once the appointment's been flipped to non-contributory for these members, you'll get a special transaction type. If it's in your earned period report, it'll be an earned period, no contribution, no service transaction. If you're reporting them for a prior period or in an adjustment report, you'll use the prior period, no contribution, no service transaction.
Okay, thank you. There's another question here from Sandy Kaiser Stodden. We had an employee that was working at the state, and we were notified by CalPERS that we were not the main employer and we were to treat his earning as OT. Employee discontinued job with state. I'm thinking that means 1 year later. I would like to know why CalPERS does not notify the employer when an employee is no longer considered overtime and we were to reinstate contributions.
Hey, Ron, this is Dan over in the membership and post-retirement employee.
Hi, thanks, Dan.
No problem. Sandy, we've actually addressed this issue. We had a system update implemented recently. I want to say a couple months ago. I don't remember the exact time, but when a person quits their full-time job, and as long as there's an OT appointment in their system, the overtime appointment employer will get a letter notifying them that the member has stopped working with their contributory appointment and to begin reporting contributions for that member. So we did address that issue in a system enhancement, I want to say a few months ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Let's see, there's another question here below. Erica Ortega, if there are districts that are independent reporters, would hours worked at those districts be combined with hours for districts that the COE reports for? That answer is yes, because the COE is considered the main employer for all the districts within that COE. So it gives an example, employee worked 800 hours at the independent reporting district and 200 at the district that the COE reports. They still qualify for membership since they are still under the COE's contract, and that is correct, yes. I will be happy to answer these in typed form as well, but I'm also just trying to answer them verbally as I see they're coming in. So Jennifer Boone asked,
Ron, I was just going to say, we have a raised hand and then we're probably going to get over to Alex after this one.
Okay, that'll be fine. We'll do that. And then I'll just continue to answer them in the Q&A after that.
That sounds great.
Okay, we have somebody with a hand up?
Yes, Brandy?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I need specific information on how to report the non-contributory line because we've been trying to submit them through SCOE, and SCOE goes to submit the lines and they have trouble. Sometimes they go through, sometimes they don't. And Juanita at SCOE has tried to reach out to PERS, but has not received any official confirmation on how to do this. And we want to make sure that we do this correctly so that we don't have any issues for SCOE or myself when we go to enter those specific lines. So I need the actual, like, should it be 13 contribution code? You know, I need that specific information so that we're doing it correctly. So if you can't answer it right now, can somebody look into it and let us know so that we can do it correctly going forward?
Thank you, Brandy. I do believe that Dan's team and payroll could assist with that. Is that correct, Dan? You guys will help?
Yeah, we can definitely assist you, Brandy, on that. And we will, I can talk to you offline about that and get that payroll submitted.
Thank you. I really would appreciate that. I just, like I said, want to make sure that we're doing it right and that, you know, SCOE doesn't have any trouble because, you know, whenever there's a issue that revolves, you know, trying to resubmit the line, that causes more time for them to work on their report. And I don't want to be that person that, you know, is doing that to them.
Sure, of course.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. And thank you, Dan. Okay, Susan. Susan, is there any more questions?
Yeah, it looks like we have one more hand, Nancy, and then we're going to go to Alex. Go ahead, Nancy.
So yeah, I'm from Padilla De Anza Community College District, and I put it in the Q&A as well. So we have recently encountered just a regular position, a temporary position that been reporting. But then when we're reporting through a most recent file, it's showing up as this is an overtime position or non-contributory position. Then when we check with CalPERS, we receive a letter back saying, oh, it's 3 years back that we need to refund this employee because that for this duration time is non-contributory. But we never had an error before until just recent. Was that the upgrade stuff that Dan was mentioning that's happening, that's why it surfaced now versus 3 years back?
Nancy, this is Dan. It might be, but maybe we can talk about this offline, and then we can get more specifics about who the employee was, and I can take a look at it and then answer your question very specifically.
Okay, will do.
All right, thank you, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Alex. Are you available, Alex?
Hello, yes, I am.
Great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Vasquez. I am on the member elections team, and I'm here today to give you a quick recap about retirement system election eligibility when electing a retirement system. Assisting me with questions is my fellow team member, Cassandra El Salami. During this presentation, we will take a quick look at the retirement election form, go over the retirement eligibility requirements needed to be eligible for the election, and types of positions reportable. We will also discuss common scenarios our team encounters on a daily basis. Next slide, please. First thing we want to look at is the retirement system election, also known as the ES 372. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide, please. Oh, there we go. This is a form that CalPERS and CalSTRS use when a member is making an election. It is a CalSTRS form, so if you have any questions regarding the form or how it is completed, please reach out to CalSTRS. Next slide, please. Okay, now let's go over the retirement system eligibility requirements. Your employers will primarily fall into one of the two categories. One, an employee electing CalPERS for a CalSTRS creditable position, or two, an employee electing CalSTRS for a classified position. For an employee electing CalPERS for a CalSTRS creditable position, the employee must have either 5 years of service credit in CalPERS or must have been active in CalPERS with either a school employer, the Board of Governors of California Community Colleges, or specifically the Department of Education within 120 days. California state universities or any other employers outside of these three types of employers will not qualify. You can find if a member has 5 years of service through their MyCalPERS account, and if you would like to validate if a member has qualified employment within 120 days, please reach out to the member elections team and we would be happy to assist. The position must mandatorily qualify for CalSTRS membership on the date of hire. If it is a position that does not require mandatory membership in CalSTRS upon hire, and they must sign a permissive election, they would not qualify for a retirement election form. If you have any questions regarding this, please contact CalSTRS. If the employee meets both of these two requirements, the employee is eligible to make the retirement system election and should be given the election form. For an employee electing CalSTRS for a CalPERS covered position, the classified position must mandatorily qualify for CalPERS membership on the date of hire. If the employee meets this requirement, the employee is eligible to make the retirement system election and should be given the election form. Next slide, please. CalPERS and CalSTRS have different types of reportable positions. Reportable positions to CalSTRS are considered credentialed positions, which oftentimes include teachers, counselors, nurses, etc. CalPERS reportable positions are classified positions, which include positions such as office personnel, cafeteria, custodial, and school employees that are not performing creditable service. If you are unsure if a position is performing creditable service, we do encourage you to reach out to CalSTRS to validate this information. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're going to go over a few common scenarios. Next slide, please. Sierra is a previous CalPERS member taking a full-time credential position that mandatorily qualifies upon hire in CalSTRS. She has more than 5 years of service credit in CalPERS, and Sierra wants to elect CalPERS for her full-time credentialed service. Next slide, please. Sierra can elect CalPERS as the position is a full-time credentialed position that meets CalSTRS qualifications, and since she has 10 years of service, she met the 5-year eligibility requirement. Next slide, please. Okay, now Mary is a previous CalPERS member taking a full-time credentialed position that mandatorily qualifies upon hire in CalSTRS. Mary has less than 5 years of service credit in CalPERS, but has previous employment with a school employer in CalPERS within 120 days. Mary wants to elect CalPERS for a full-time credentialed service. Next slide, please. Mary can elect CalPERS as she qualifies by having been previously employed in CalPERS within 120 days of the new hire date for her new position. she also met the CalSTRS qualifications. Next slide, please. Now let's do a little what if scenario. Let's say Mary's previous employment was with a public agency or CSU. In this case, Mary would not qualify. Even though Mary qualifies with CalSTRS membership upon hire, the member did not have 5 years and was not employed in CalPERS with the school district, Board of Governors, California Community Colleges, or the Department of Education. Next slide, please. So now we have Sam. You hire Sam as a substitute teacher for your district, and Sam wants to know if he can elect to have his new substitute service covered by CalPERS since he is already a vested CalPERS member. Here's some background on Sam. He has never been a CalSTRS member. He's a vested CalPERS member with 5 years of service credit. He last separated from CalPERS on 1/1/2021 from working with a school district. And his substitute position effective date is 1/25/2021. And your agency has already reached out to CalSTRS and verified the position did not qualify for mandatory membership upon hire. Next slide, please. So in this situation, Sam is not eligible to make the CalPERS-CalSTRS election to have a substitute service covered by CalPERS. The reason being that substitute service does not require membership in the CalSTRS defined benefit plan as part of the first date of hire. Next slide, please. Now that we went over the scenarios, we have a few resources. Here are some resources to assist you if you have any questions regarding specific member eligibility requirements. These eligibility requirements can also be found in our public agency and schools reference guide. Or if you have any specific questions regarding any specific members, we also encourage you to reach out to the member elections team inbox. Next slide, please. Now, if you have any questions, Cassandra is available to answer your questions.
We have no raised hands at this time.
Do we have any questions in the chat? Cassandra, I think you're muted.
We have a question in the chat. What if Sam was also a STRS member in scenario 3? Then he would qualify because he would be mandatorily eligible for CalSTRS on the date of hire with that position. And we also have another one. If an employee has 5 years of service credit, but the election passed 60 days period, as the County Office of Education, we would submit the ES 372 election to PERS for approval. So the election would be denied if they pass the 60 days period. So we encourage you to review if the member might be eligible on the date of hire so that you can give them that election and it be signed within the 60 days. And that's all the questions that I have in chat. Are there any raised hands at this time?
No raised hands.
Thank you.
There are no more questions. We also, like I said, we encourage you to reach out to the member elections team inbox and we can assist you in any way possible. I will be handing it over to Ryan. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Beaker, and I will be presenting on behalf of my CalPERS system support team within the Employer Account Management Division. I'll be reviewing some upcoming enhancements that should be within my CalPERS by early March. Lastly, I'll cover some enhancements that should be in my CalPERS after March, but before the next time we meet, which I think is May. So next slide, please. The first enhancement I'm going to cover, again, should be in my CalPERS by early March, is regarding the out-of-class reporting. So we have some new validations that should be going into the system. My CalPERS will no longer accept a business partner to upload out-of-class records on behalf of another business partner unless a business partner relationship is established first. We also added a validation when no pay rate plan is found, the record should error out. The added validation will also check to see if there's a reporting period falls outside of membership or an active appointment. Next, we updated some language just to make sure that it's more in line with typical verbiage we use within the program area or the contact center. So we updated some of the language in my CalPERS from active appointment and out-of-class appointments to active assignment and out-of-class assignment. Next, we modified the total OOC hours worked for the period to be total qualified hours worked. We also added a new box to the out-of-class section for total overtime hours worked to account for those overtime hours. Next slide, please. Next, we made some enhancements to the business partner login screens. So as of right now, you should be resetting your password every 60 days. As of March, we're actually going to extend that to 90 days. So whenever we do an enhancement, we always try to measure what's best to maintain that system integrity. In this case, making sure that data, whether it's employer data or employee data, is safe and what's easiest for the employer, right? So with this enhancement, extending it to 90 days, we kind of met somewhere in the middle to make sure that we still can keep that system integrity intact and make it a little bit easier for our business partners, right? So now, in theory, every 90 days, it should be about 4 times a year. Next, we simplified language on the login screens and the challenge question screens. So as of right now, let's say your password expired. Typically, what ends up happening is a business partner will call our contact center. After they're verified and they answer those challenge questions, they'll be given a temporary password. But when you use that temporary password, you go to a screen that says enter current password. You always get tons of feedback. Does that mean I use my temporary password again? Do I use the password I'm about to update? What does that mean? So we just kind of simplified all that language in that screen to make it more coherent. So now when you use that temporary password, that screen should say, enter that temporary password. So it's a little bit easier to use section by section. We also added some language to contact your system access administrator for password reset. So I think there's this belief that maybe the only people that can really reset passwords are the employer contact center, and that's entirely untrue. Actually, your system access administrator can reset passwords for all the users, and really, we really hope that the system access administrator should be doing that. The employer contact center should really be your last line of defense, but primarily we want you going to system access administrator. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the system access administrator's responsibility to be providing that access into my CalPERS and that my CalPERS data. So again, we would hope that you contacted your system access administrator first to reset that. We have several student guides online. We have classes and certain things like that. If the system access administrator is unsure how to do that, we do have several resources out there to assist that system access administrator to reset those passwords. We also will require a new field, well, not really a new field, but it's a requirement to have your email address on there now. And the cell phone number is recommended. So with this logic, we really wanted to make it as streamlined as possible. So if you're going to reset your password, how are we going to contact you for that temporary password, right? So that's why that email is now required, because if you select that email, we could send that temporary password through email. So that will be a requirement coming up in March, so just be on the lookout for that. Again, all these enhancements are really just to make it more streamlined, so you have the ability within your organization to reset those passwords as needed and rely less on the employer contact center and more within your system access administrator. Next slide, please. This one's a two-parter. It's broken up into two phases. The first phase is scheduled for March, and the second phase should be scheduled for April. So for new appointments, when you click on the appointment, and with the appointment event history, there's a blue hyperlink that says View Event Details. Right now, that link will bring you to a read-only version of the appointment details page. After March, with that release, there will be a new page when clicking the View Event Details hyperlink. This page will specify all the fields and all the values that changed with certain timestamps. In other words, I could view this page if I want to see exactly what changed on this profile and the time that was changed. This is super beneficial, especially as it relates to schools, as the retirement appointment really affects payroll. So there might be certain situations where you're enrolling a new employee, let's say you forgot, I forgot to update the collective bargaining unit, or maybe I forgot the certificated indicator, I need to change that to yes, right? So there's certain times where you would do a new appointment, you go to report payroll, and the error is actually associated with that retirement appointment. So after March, there'd be a new screen where you could actually see what was entered originally, what was updated with all the new fields, and then the timestamps that they were updated, just to make it a little bit more transparent. We're also going to include a back button within that page just to make it easier to navigate back and forth when you're doing that in-depth research. Why did this change? What changed when? There's going to be a back to bring you back to the original retirement enrollment screen. And next slide, please. And the two-parter, the second phase, coming in April, it's going to add the same type of logic to the appointment history panel. We'll add a new page when clicking on the appointment event history. When this link is clicked, a page will show the event change date column, if the event was superseded with a yes or no column, and the event column with the event date and the changed by column. So with this intention here, it's going to be, again, the same type of history, but specific to that appointment history panel. So with that, we're just going to show specific to the type of transaction, what changed. So in the event of, like, let's say a permanent separation, again, going to payroll, your payroll tech might get an error, contributions are reported after the separation date. So that means you'd actually have to go in and correct that permanent separation date, right? So assuming that you click on that page, it's going to show that permanent separation, what was reported and what had changed and what it's showing now. So again, hopefully we provide more clarity what was there and what should be there now, and the whole history of what exactly changed with timestamps and things like that. Next slide, please. So lastly, I'm just going to touch on a few reminders that we always like to hit on every single SEAC. So the first one is the undeliverable address Cognos report. We regularly encourage our employers to run this report. There'll be several different reasons why CalPERS might send a letter to the employee. It might be related to the retirement. You send out a welcome letter letting them know they're new members. We also send out information as it pertains to open enrollment and things like that. So we want our employers to regularly run that report just so it's easier that we contact the employee. At the end of the day, that's why we're all here, is to make sure those employees are taken care of. One of the ways we could do that is making sure we have all the addresses correct, so we could send correspondence between CalPERS and the member. Next, we want everyone to have a primary contact for the arrears administrator, financials, general, human resources, payroll, and Social Security. So a lot of the forms that do go out towards our employers, we have a hierarchy, and that depends on who the primary contacts are. So in order to get those types of correspondence between CalPERS and the employer, we just want to make sure that we have those primary contacts listed. Lastly, I just want to touch on the retirement appointment reconciliation. We want to make sure that you're regularly clearing those individuals out of the retirement appointment pages. There are many filters and things like that at the top that you could actually do per earn period. You could do it per fiscal year. You want to drill down specifically to those retired annuitants. We have that filter there just to make sure I want to clear all these people out before payroll, just to avoid those late fees. So that's still a requirement. We regularly encourage our county Office of Education to check those pages and make sure you're still in compliance by accounting for who's listed there, who has unposted payroll, and really the reason why they have unposted payroll. Should they be separated? Should you post payroll? Should you confirm it? So just make sure you do that on a regular basis. Next slide, please. Do we have any system enhancement questions today?
Yes, we do have a question from Bina. Go ahead, Bina. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, Ryan. I just wanted to request, I know that you are always enhancing the system. You know the document history page of FERS where they post all these documents going in, coming out. If we can have the employer ID name and employee ID name, I know it's a very, it's too much information, but that's what's really needed. So we can see what district it is and the employee, the member.
Yeah, we could definitely take that back.
Enhance that page.
Yeah, what I would recommend too, Zena, if you could, can you send an email just to the SEAC inbox, just so one, we have a formal documentation that you requested that, and two, that we have something to show, just so when we bring that up that, hey, Zena with Orange County Schools would really like this enhancement, so it kind of tracks, and we could kind of track those requests as they come in.
Okay, we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Zena.
No more raised hands right now.
Awesome. Well, in that case, I'll go ahead and turn this over to Paul in the actuarial office to talk about the contribution rate outlook. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Chida. I'm the actuary for the schools pool. And I'll just talk briefly about rates for 22, 23, and forward. So rates starting July 1st of this year. There have been some important changes and experience from the last several months that is going to affect the rate. So I want to talk about that now, just to give a little bit of a preview of what we might see. And this is a pretty short presentation, so we'll just field questions at the end. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so the June 30, 2021 actuarial evaluation is underway. That's the evaluation that sets the rates for fiscal year 22-23. The June 30, 2021 date is important because that is the date where we're gathering census information as well as asset information. So this evaluation, it sets, of course, the employer rate, but also, as you know, TEPRA employee rates are also set by the actuarial evaluation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute or two. We do expect the rates to be finalized in April. They go to the CalPERS board for approval at the board meeting in mid-April. So we expect to have final information by then. But today I just wanted to give you some estimated information, like I said, based on some developments that we've seen. So the rates are really going to be driven by a few things here that you see on the bottom of the slide, some of which we know, some of which we don't know yet. So first, we do know that the state, of course, contributed quite a bit of money in July of 2019 to help school employers. These supplanting payments brought down the school's employer rates quite a bit. This fiscal year that we're in now is the last year where the state's assistance is helping to reduce your rates. So we know that just relative to this year, we know we're going to see an increase of over 2% in next year's rate, just because of that, the bounce back, if you will, from that assistance evaporating. We also know that we have new assumptions that the CalPERS board adopted. This is something that happens pretty infrequently, typically once every 4 years. So that's a relatively monumental thing, at least for the actuaries. And finally, we know that the investment return in fiscal year 2021 was quite favorable, over 21%. And of course, that goes a long way toward helping to push down contribution rates in the coming years. And we'll see that visually in a few minutes. Now, there's still two relatively big unknowns, which is why I can't tell you exactly what the rate's going to be. These are the issues we're still working through in our actuarial evaluation. The first is the exact demographic experience of the members in the school's pool. So here we're talking about things like salary increases, how many people terminated and turned over, retired, and what is the shift, if you will, in the composition of the active group from Classic to TEPRA. The other big unknown is the total payroll in the fiscal year ending 6/30/2021. Again, we're gathering that we have the data and we're processing it now, but we don't have the final information on that. And that's important because what you pay is a rate. It's a percentage of payroll. Now that rate it's sensitive to the payroll. It's the denominator, if you will, in that equation. So if payroll is a little bit less than we might have forecast, then that actually serves to push up the rates a little bit. Now the good thing here is we have these two unknowns, but our best guess as actuaries is that they might somewhat offset each other. The demographic experience, we do expect to have some favorable experience in there, at least favorable in terms of reducing cost due to COVID and other factors. And we expect the payroll, on the other hand, to come in a little bit below what we might have assumed, which will have the opposite effect. So hopefully those two factors wash to some extent, but we'll have to see how the actuarial evaluation turns out. Okay, next slide, please. I'll just touch briefly on the new assumptions. Like I said, we get new assumptions maybe every 4 years unless something special happens in the interim. So there's really two big things going on here. The first is that, as you've probably heard, the discount rate is going from 7% to 6.8%. And that stems from the asset liability management process that CalPERS has been going through for months now, and which the board finally concluded and signed off on in November. So now the discount rate essentially is the expected investment return of the fund. So if we expect a less return in the future, then that means that employers and some employees basically have to pay more to make up the difference. So a discount rate reduction like this serves to increase cost. Now, second, the other assumptions that we looked at were what we call demographic assumptions. And those are being tweaked because every 4 years, we do an exhaustive review of experience of all the CalPERS membership that we have, and we reassess things like mortality, pay increases, turnover. We want to make sure that the actuarial assumptions we are using in projecting costs best reflect what we think is going to happen in the future. And of course, the recent experience goes a long way towards helping us set those assumptions. Now these demographic assumptions, the changes to those will have varying effects on cost because some of them are going to increase it and some of them are going to decrease it. But all in all, the net effect of all of those is expected to be pretty small. I do want to briefly note COVID-19 and talk about that. It's obviously top of mind. Now, it's not directly measured in the sense that we don't have a specific assumption for that, but the experience due to COVID-19 is going to indirectly affect rates over time. So if more people pass away than we assume, or people's turnover or retirement of the group is different because of COVID-19, then that will emerge, that will manifest over time in the experience. And every year when we do evaluation, we will true up in a sense and capture that experience. So I just want to make a note that we're not directly reflecting it in a certain way, but it is being reflected nonetheless. Okay, next slide, please. So what does this mean for contributions? We'll start with the employees. Now, as you know, PEPRA members by law, they are the ones who contribute essentially half of their normal cost, rounded to the nearest 0.25% of pay. Now, normal cost is pretty sensitive to the actuarial assumptions, especially the discount rate. So when the discount rate drops from 7 to 6.8, we are expecting that primarily, as the primary driver to trigger a PEPRA member rate change. Now, we haven't had one in several years. It's been, PEPRA members have been contributing 7% for the last few years. Now we are estimating, I'm going to use that word estimating very strongly here. We're estimating that PEPRA member rate will increase to, we are guessing 8%, effective July 1 of this year. We're very confident it will increase. We're a little less confident on exactly what the rate will be, but our best guess at this point is 8%. Please don't take 8% to the bank, but just be forewarned that there will be a change required for the contribution rate of your PEPRA members starting in July. And again, we'll know the final rate in April at the same time as the employer rates. Now, just a reminder, the classic members, their rate is set by statute. It is and has been 7% forever, and that is not, that will not be changing. Okay, next slide, please. So now for the employers, I'll give you the bottom line on top, which is that we estimate the rate for this coming fiscal year will be 25.4% of pay. Now, again, that is the combination of the normal cost component and the unfunded liability payment component. So the total rate that you'll pay. Now, the last time I talked to you, our best guess at the time was that the rate would be 26.1%. So it's good news. The good news is the rate our estimated rate for this coming fiscal year has come down about 0.7%. And what I'm showing on the slide here is basically a reconciliation from the rate you're paying now, which is 22.91%, to that current estimate, if you will, for this coming year of 25.4, just showing the breakdown of what's moved it up and what's moved it down. And again, you can see that the expiration of the state support has gone a long way towards increasing it. But fortunately, the actual return on assets that over 21% has really helped it's helped a little bit this year to bring it down. And the impact of the new assumptions that in the return folded together has brought the rate down a little bit. And then there's the PEPRA member rate change. Because PEPRA members will be paying a little more, that means the employers will pay a little less as a result of that. And you can see the effect of those factors here on that chart. So again, this is just an estimate. Please don't take the 25.4% to the bank any more than you take the 8% PEPRA estimate to the bank. But again, we want to give you an idea of what we're looking at because I think giving as much advance notice as possible is helpful to you as employers. Next slide, please. We also revised our estimate of the projection of rates in future years. So not just this coming year, but also a little bit farther out. And again, I'm going to reemphasize that these are estimates. And the farther out we go, the less sure we are, the less confident, if you will, we are. But we like to give a projection just so you have an idea of what direction rates are going in or what they might look like. On this slide here, I'm showing the 5-year projection of what the rates, what we think the rates might be. Now, last time I spoke with you in May, the top line, the gray line was our best estimate. Well, now, largely thanks to the expected change in the discount rate, offset by the great investment return we had last fiscal year, we're now seeing this line bending down. So now our best estimate of the projected rates is the blue line. Of course, it's much happier looking than the gray line. It's actually projected to even come down a little bit. And that really is largely driven by that investment return of over 21%. The impact of that is phased in a sense. So in the first 5 years, you're going to feel more and more benefit each year from that investment return. And that you can see that on the chart here. So good news there. And by the way, I just want to mention that these updated estimates and projections were included in an addendum to the actuarial report that we released just recently. I think it was posted last week. So these projections were not part of the original actuarial report that was finalized last year, but we just posted an addendum to include this information. So it's a brief roundup of where we think rates might go in the future, including this coming fiscal year. Do we have any questions at this point?
No raised hands right now.
Okay, I don't see any in the Q&A quite yet. I don't see. Give it a few seconds. I know I kind of blazed through that pretty quickly, maybe a lot to process. So I'll give it a little bit here. Still not seeing anything on Q&A.
No raised hands. Okay.
Well, I think we can move on then. If you do have any questions, again, feel free to email that SEAC mailbox, and they will, if it's actual related question regarding the rates, then it will be routed to me, and I'll be happy to address that. But if there's nothing, I think I'll pass it on to Jamie.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. Over the next few slides, I'm going to be sharing some important information with you regarding how our regional offices are serving our members today, as well as how we'll be serving our members once we return to the office, and of course, what our communications are going to look like. Next slide, please. Thank you. While our offices are closed to the public right now for in-person services, we've been serving our members virtually. We're providing benefit counseling appointments via phone and video, and the feedback from our members is that this has been very beneficial. Members choose whether they prefer to meet with us by phone or video, and all they need to do is simply answer their phone or click the video link when it's time for their appointment. Similarly, our retirement classes are conducted on an interactive instructor-led virtual platform where members can interact, ask questions, and get the information they need, similar to a format like this, from the comforts of home. These classes are also provided for employers by request. This would be a situation where an employer, say, Sacramento County Schools, for instance, decides that they'd like to offer a class for their employees for the purposes of retirement planning, and we can set up a virtual class very similar to this and provide those services there. In addition to our interactive virtual classes, members can take advantage of the educational resources that are available through our CalPERS YouTube channel and, of course, within their own My CalPERS accounts. And for those with more emergent needs, we do continue to offer our emergency retirement counseling via phone or video. These are reserved for, excuse me, truly dire situations when a member is not likely to survive the normal processing time of a retirement application. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now let's take a look at what our services will look like once we do return to the office. I'm happy to share that we have fully operationalized our virtual services, and they'll continue even after we open our doors. Our feedback from members has been overwhelmingly positive. So we've committed to maintaining virtual appointments as well as virtual retirement classes going forward. Once we return back to the office and open back up to in-person services, it's going to be very, very important for members to schedule an appointment beforehand. Now, this is a change from how our regional offices operated in the past, where folks could just come in and receive services on a walk-in basis. This is something that is very, very important for our members and employers to know. In-person services will be by appointment only, just like a virtual and a phone appointment. Without an appointment, our services are going to be quite limited. And an example of that is going to be just someone who happens to be in the neighborhood. They want to drop off a form to us. They don't have any questions or anything like that. They're not seeking guidance. They're just simply dropping off a form and will be off on their merry way. Also, we are mandated to abide by any and all county and local safety guidelines, and that means that where masks are mandated throughout the state, they will be required to be worn not just by all staff, but by all visitors as well. And once it's deemed safe to travel again, our employer and association classes at our employer locations will also resume, again, following all local and county safety guidelines. Emergency retirements will continue on as well, with the recommendation that we conduct them virtually, of course, for the safety of our members. And next slide, please. Thank you. Now, once the appointment is made, there's some helpful resources to help prepare for their time with us. The hyperlink on this slide will take you to our member education resources page. And as soon as I'm done, I can't talk and post things in the chat at the same time, but I'll go ahead and post that link in the chat for you as well when we're done. And that contains all kinds of information. You can find even more by checking out our online classes and our YouTube channel. I highly recommend that anyone looking to retire take a retirement planning class. As you have probably very well gleaned by now, CalPERS is a remarkably complex system. And our classes help to break down the benefits into more understandable parts. Having this foundational understanding of how the benefits work will help our members determine the right questions to ask during their appointment. With My CalPERS Online, members can run retirement estimates on their own, and this is something members will want to do before an appointment. We are unable to calculate estimates on demand during the appointment, so having that estimate run is a great tool, and you can run as many estimates as you like. Yours truly may or may not have run several retirement estimates. Members can also apply to purchase service credit and even retire online, and we will walk them through the entire process. We are here to help. And next slide, please. Thank you. Once we do return to the office and determine it's safe to open our doors, we'll be letting our members know about our services through some mass communication. We'll be utilizing our online channels such as the CalPERS newsletter, social media, our website, of course, will be updated. We'll even be sending what are called My Messages through the My CalPERS account for our business partners, and even a banner when members log into their My CalPERS account. To make sure we're prepared and ready to serve our members in person, we're going to be doing a soft opening. And this will allow us to remain flexible in case of any changes, and it allows us to be sure that our safety controls are well established before our mass communication goes out to the general public. And one thing I want everyone to remember is the importance, and I cannot emphasize this enough, folks, the importance of having an appointment. It's important for our members to set aside the right amount of time to discuss their retirement benefits. It's a big deal. And our appointments provide just that, a special time slot set aside just for them. And next slide, please. All right, well, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Let's see, we do have one raised hand. Craig, go ahead. Craig, you can unmute. There you go. Craig, you want to ask your question? Okay, Craig, if you want to go ahead and type that into the Q&A feature, I'm sure Jamie can take a look at that and answer it for you.
Sure, I'm taking a look at the Q&A right now, and I see I am in Mendocino County. Will there be an in-person office in Sonoma or Mendocino County, and where would they be located? Thank you. Excellent question. So we don't have anything. The short answer is, unfortunately, no, we don't have an office in Sonoma or Mendocino County. We do have a total of 8 offices located all the way up and down the state. This is Sacramento serves as the furthest north office, but we have offices all the way down as far as San Diego. Our main website, if you just go to our main website, you can look for regional offices, you'll see a map that shows where each individual office is located, as well as the counties they serve. Off the top of my head, I believe Sonoma and Mendocino County are serviced by our Walnut Creek regional office. However, remember, if it is a virtual appointment, there's really no difference in services other than having to park and go in and all that kind of thing. But, our virtual services, we could take care of you without you having to leave the house. And okay, so I see another one here, and this one says, how do members use the retirement calculator when they have multiple PERS positions with different employers, rates, and dates, and more than a year between employers? Well, the good news is, by and large, our system is complex enough to meet the demands of our complex retirement laws and regulations and formulas. So if you log in with your behind your CalPERS account, our system will be able to account for any and all of those things. And, you know, within a year of retirement, you can also request a CalPERS generated estimate that will be generated by the good folks at CalPERS headquarters. Okay. And that is all I see there. I don't know if there's any hands raised.
Nope, I think that's it for you. And
All
we'll
right.
go on to our roundtable.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. And I'll turn it back over to you, Susan. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Jamie. So at this time, Renee Ostrander and Brad Hansen and Heather Porter and the rest of our panelists are available to answer your questions. Please submit your questions using the Q&A feature or select the raise hand icon. So are there some questions in the Q&A?
Susan, there was a question in the Q&A earlier that I responded to, saying I would answer it kind of in the live Q&A section. It had to do with user testing, and when we do enhancements with user testing. So I will work with our system support, with Megan and our system support team, to see if there are opportunities for that. We do need to be respectful to all of our stakeholders when we're doing things, and we do have, you know, competing priorities and restrictions when it comes to enhancements. So we have to keep that in mind. We don't want to open it up and then have a lot of suggestions that we can accomplish for you. And so we do our due diligence to reach out to our county offices and the districts before we do implementations to see what their challenges are, in hopes that we can build those system enhancements to address those. So I do believe, for instance, with our furlough, we have been in contact with them. We know their challenges, and we are trying to build this in order to make it as easy as possible for everyone, the districts and the county offices. So hopefully that can answer that question that I believe it was Teresa had on having user testing.
Okay, great. Thanks, Heather. We have Erica with a raised hand. Go ahead, Erica.
Hi, good morning. This is Erica with Riverside County. Within the last month or so, I had an employee who realized that CalPERS started automatically separating appointments for members who retired. And I just wanted to ask if, when CalPERS takes some sort of action like this to make mass changes, if we could be notified. I know it's something really simple on your end, but on our end, it does kind of affect the process that the staff has here in terms of auditing the appointments. So like in that scenario, typically the staff, if they see that somebody retired, they would reach out to the school district to request paperwork separating the member, and then also getting that unused sick leave that they would input. But now that those appointments are automatically separated by PERS, had that employee not noticed, like they wouldn't know to now check to make sure whether that was something that was input by them or something that got automatically separated by PERS.
Yeah, Megan, why don't you take this question? I think you can answer that pretty well.
Okay, sorry, I was just drinking some water. Okay, so just to reiterate the question, you're wanting to know how we're going to differentiate between you inputting the permanent separation versus us automatically separating, and then any steps after?
I think we just would like in the future, if you make any changes like that, or just anything changes pertaining to the appointment, that we be notified before that happens. Just because the staff is trained to do, you know, take certain steps depending on what they see. And then when something changes and you guys automate something, it kind of throws off what they're looking for. And so I feel like I need to, you know, we need to talk about it amongst our staff here as far as how that's going to change their process going forward.
Absolutely. And then one thing I can offer you is if you email my team, which is the employer technical support at calpers.ca.gov. I will put it in the chat when I'm done talking. We will also send you a list of anybody that we have separated as part of that automated process for the month, if you request it.
Okay.
We did issue a circular letter, and we're going to be sending out a reminder circular letter on this as well. And we will be making some minor enhancements to make this an official permanent process going forward. I would like us, my team, to maybe communicate ahead of when we get all of that sort of organized and ready to go into the system. We can certainly bring it up at whatever SEAC meeting that might be. And unfortunately, we don't have a date for it, so I have no way to tell you when that would be. We are planning also on making some changes to the letter that goes out to the members that will hopefully help clear up some confusion as well. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, so I think I remember there was a circular letter about the automatic separations when there was no payroll reported for, I believe it was 6 months, but was there one for this particular scenario? I'm just wondering if I missed it.
It should be the same scenario. So in any case where no payroll has been reported for 6 months or greater, they are all lumped into this group of people who would be then permanently separated once that 7th month rolls around.
Well, this is different. They're not waiting 6 months on these. As soon as they retire, they're just separating them like right away.
It's included in that as well. So retirees, it shouldn't be immediate. It should be a couple months later. So we sort of stand back.
We had some that just retired. I want to say it was like December 31st. And then
would you mind sending me those? I would like to take a look at that and have my team double check on a couple of things. I'll put the email address in the chat again, and then we can absolutely take a look just to make sure that everything is working the way we need it to.
Okay, I will definitely do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And then I have another question. Is that okay if I proceed, or do I have to wait?
Yeah, go ahead, Erica.
Okay, so now that the error has been turned back on for the lump sum special comp reporting, we have sent several MOUs to CalPERS, and I think some of them are going to the MOU review team if the payroll analyst needs them to like review it further, if they can't give us a direct answer. I was wondering how long will it take for us to get a response from them? Because I think that error got turned back on around the 17th. Mm-hmm. I had just happened to request an extension for that particular report because we had staff out due to COVID. So I requested that extension, but it feels like it's taking a little bit long, and I haven't posted the report because we're waiting to hear back from PERS on how to treat those records.
Right. So, right now we're seeing an influx of those type of requests. The rule is brand new. It's turned on for not only just schools, but for our public agencies and other PERS contracting agencies as well. Normally, once we kind of have a handle on this and we get this over this initial push, and I have Kevin on the line too. So Kevin, if I misspeaking here, you can chime in too. But I'd imagine that we probably get majority of them done within 5 days of getting that. We gotta look at this like this, right? This is our initial push with this, right? So as soon as you report this, you're gonna find out if you have a lump sum issue or an MOU issue. If we determine it's an MOU issue, we'll solve it now, and then going forward, you won't encounter these errors anymore. So right now, we're just getting this huge influx of looking at those MOUs, and we're doing our best to try to get through them as quickly as we possibly can. And I know that Carlos's team on the payroll team, they've been trained on this as well. So, right now, it just really depends on how complex that MOU is to review and what type of issue it is. If it's a lump sum, a lot of those have been corrected pretty much immediately. It's just the ones that we have to review the MOU further.
Yep, Brad. So yeah, we are trying to get those out as soon as we can. We do aim for a 5 business day turnaround time, but we are getting an influx of it. So if there are anything urgent or anything like that, Erica, you obviously have my contact, but you can go ahead and feel free to email me and I can check on the status for you as well. If something that I can handle directly, we can go ahead and expedite those as well. But yeah, and my email is Kevin, KEVIN. .lau, L-A-U @calpers.ca.gov.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad and Kevin.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a raised hand from Bina. Bina, go ahead.
Hi, I would like to clarify the temporary upgrade pay for the PEPRA members. There is no recruitment. It's not a vacant position, and they are PEPRA members, but they are getting paid at the next step of the higher position. So I thought that temporary upgrade of PEPRA is not reportable. So we will report gold rates. I would like to clarify that.
Yeah, that's correct. So for PEPRA members, temporary upgrade pay is not reportable. You can pay it, you just can't report it to CalPERS. Right. However, if this is alluding to a question about the out of class reporting, you still would report those hours to us for the out of class reporting.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. My question is, let's say the person's old position was at 5,000 pay rate, but the new position temporarily they are doing at the first step of the higher position at 6,000 pay rate. I thought for PEPRA member, we will still report at 5,000 because temporary upgrade is not reportable. That's what I want to clarify.
Yeah, correct. Correct. You would still report to us their full-time pay rate on their regular position, if you will. And that temporary upgrade pay, if you are happening to pay it, you just don't report that to us. Hopefully I'm understanding. I'm having a really hard time hearing you, Vina. It sounds like you're running a blender or something.
Okay. I think we had some email that I would like to check it again, where we were instructed to report it at a higher, like 6,000.
Well, it really depends on the situation too. So I was just thinking about it. So if it's a true temporary upgrade pay, you don't report it. But if you're really moving that person into that position, like if you're moving them to the position and it's not a temporary upgrade pay, then it potentially could be reported. There's different ways in which these type of issues are handled, right? But if it's a straight, you have in your MOU, there's a temporary upgrade pay, right? That you wouldn't report. But if you're like moving that person into a different position, then potentially it's reportable that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and send us your example. We'll have to look at it more detail. I don't like shooting from the hip on these type of things because there's so many scenarios, right? And I don't want to mislead you.
Yeah, hi Vina. So what we're kind of seeing just by a trend, and I'll just kind of cover the 2 different scenarios. I think most of the MOU or the collective bargaining agreement that we review is based on, hey, you are paying the difference between the position of someone being upgraded to. So using your $5,000 versus a $6,000 pay rate as an example. So within the CBA, mostly it's not extremely clear whether it's, placing the member into the position. Most of the time it's kind of saying, hey, we're going to give you the difference between the steps and such like that. Now, obviously, as you're aware that, for Classic, temporary upgrade pay is reportable, but for PEPRA member, it is not reportable. However, when providing this type of pay, I would say it should be consistent. So it's either district or the county. For every single time that a member is in these type of acting or out of class position, right? It should either be, hey, this is 100% always a temporary upgrade pay, or it's 100% that it should be a position movement. What we're seeing at times is that, for classic, temporary upgrade pay is reported, whereas for PEPRA, it's being reported at the higher pay rate. This way, it's kind of circumventing the regulation. Hey, if we report pay rate for the PEPRA, you as a PEPRA member would get the benefit. However, on the item itself being bargained for and whatnot, it should kind of be consistent during the practice. It's either should be, hey, we're giving a temporary upgrade pay or paying them like a stipend on the side per se, or we should move the members into the position. It shouldn't be a commingle between the two, because it's in this case, now we're only trying to give the PEPRA member that benefit of, hey, just because you can't receive it, as a temporary upgrade pay, we're giving you in forms of pay rate. So it needs to be consistent in that regards.
Okay. So whenever they do the higher level position, they are moved temporarily 100% into the higher position.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two types of payments district use. Either they give them 5% flat, or they give them first step of the higher position.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's 5% flat, I thought that's not reportable, but I also thought that we will report it as a 5,000 old pay rate, not the 6,000 newer pay rate for PEPRA members.
Yeah, so I think in those type of instance, I mean, some language is, hey, it's a minimum of 5% or the next step, whichever is higher. I think if there is a quotation of a percentage, that means, hey, you're really trying to provide it as a temporary upgrade pay instead of moving the person into the position. And most of the time, if you do end up moving, someone into like a higher position and whatnot, there's probably some type of personal action form that, hey, we're going to put, person A into position B or C and whatnot. So usually there should be some type of documentation, but from what you're describing, and feel free to, send me the MOU on the side after this meeting, and we can kind of confirm that. But usually if there is an instance where the condition of payment is based on 5% or whichever is higher to the next step, that speaks to more so, hey, this is truly a temporary upgrade pay versus, hey, if you are doing, 100% of duty or whatnot, whatever the condition is, we're going to now place you into the position or you shall receive the pay of the higher classification. Then that, to me, that sounds like, hey, you are moving the person into the position. Because most of the time, when you put someone into the higher classification, as a position wise, that member should probably also receive any type of benefit as, he or she is working at the higher position. So what we're commonly seeing is that like an analyst is being moved into a managerial spot. Now, if we are moving the analyst into a managerial spot, this person may cross like a bargaining into like a confidential group or management group or something like that. So in that case, if the member is receiving the pay rate and the benefit of the higher position, most of the time that is probably a valid movement. But if someone is, hey, I'm giving you a 5% or whatever the difference is, but you don't reap the benefit of the higher position, to me, that's not a position movement. That is a pure temporary upgrade pay.
Even though it's not a vacant position, there is no recruitment for PEPRA.
You're correct. So I think what you're referring to with the vacant recruitment and, that one is, something separate. It's not for reporting special compensation. It's more so tracking the hours for out of class appointment.
Oh, right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have another raised hand, Michelle Johnston. Go ahead. Michelle, it looks like you're still muted. Okay, Michelle, if you want to go ahead and type your question into the Q&A, we can look at it there. Next, we'll go to Neha Do. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question regarding the employer pay member contribution. So I have a district that had 2 salary schedules. One is because that district originally offered the employer pay member contribution. So after January 2014, the district had 2 sets of salary schedule. All the employee hired after January 1st, 2014 was placed on the higher salary schedule compared to regardless they are classic or member, because they are not offered the member pay contribution, employer pay member contribution anymore. So my question, can the district do that?
Hi, this is Kevin. So in regards with, because for PEPRA members, EPMC, employer pay member contribution or value of EPMC, since they're not reportable, and I think what we're commonly seeing now is, some school district and really even across public agencies that, hey, because you don't get this benefit, we're going to increase your salary by usually 7 to 9%. I think for school, probably mostly 7%. However, it's not something that would be allowable because it's kind of indirectly converting an EPMC into a pay rate. So obviously EPMC, no matter where we put it, right, whether you're looking to contribute for someone or now, hey, because we don't contribute it's for you, we're rolling into pay rate. That portion of the pay rate is still not base pay. Because at the end of the day, whether someone is classic or PEPRA, when you look at a position, let's just say a bus driver, if you're being paid $15, it's going to be $15 for classic and PEPRA. Therefore, in including these EPMC in the pay rate, one, it wouldn't be a reportable item versus 2, for PEPRA members, EPMC, it just wouldn't be allowed.
I see.
And obviously you guys can, pay them. It just wouldn't be reportable for the excess amount.
So what you are saying is regardless of PEPRA or Classic, after 2014, when the EPMC is not available anymore, they still need to have the same salary schedule?
In a way, obviously, for PEPRA, it went into effect on January 1st of 2013. Now, you guys can definitely maintain a separate salary schedule to pay for those PEPRA members. But for reporting wise, it should be based on, the other salary schedule, right? Just pure base pay. It doesn't include the EPMC and such. So we probably won't even use your secondary PEPRA schedule per se. Not that saying you guys can't have it. It's just, it wouldn't be something that we would review or use, for pension purposes.
Okay. So is there any like in the reference guide, is there any the reporting reference in that? It should be reporting the same salary schedule with the other one, but can pay with a different pay rate?
So this one is probably not going to be in the reference guide because what we will first look at is, okay, is that salary schedule based on base pay? So when we look at our regulation 570.5, pay rate should be based on base pay, with position titles and all the other good stuff. This one would probably a little bit more technical because of the fact that if we found that there are non-reportable item, which in this case, the EPMC, being converted into pay rate, we would actually make a determination via that format. But as far as a reference guide, I don't think it would be in there because this item is more so, hey, this item wouldn't be reportable, but it was rolled into pay rate. So there wouldn't be like a, explicit example. But if you would like us to, make a determination for you, you probably may need to take this, back to your side of the house, right? We're happy to do that, whether by email or perhaps even by a letter if needed. But there wouldn't be an explicit example in the reference guide due to the complexity because it's more so, again, it's a non-reportable item rolled into pay rate.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're getting close to 12 o'clock and we do want to be respectful of your time. So I think there might be one or two more questions. If you want to go ahead and put those in the chat now, or Q&A feature now, that would be great. Otherwise, you can send it to the SEAC mailbox. And again, that's CalPERS_SEAC at calpers.ca.gov. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that we'll compile all of these questions and answers into a report, and we'll email those out to all the attendees. Also wanted to let you know that a survey will show up as soon as you log off. So we encourage you to complete and submit that survey. And as a reminder, the recording of this webinar will be available on our website next week. And we want to thank our presentation team for passing along all their valuable information. And also a big thank you to you, our school employers, for your questions and comments.